All right, well, we're going to discuss the Von Tempsky Bowie just a little bit more here. So, like I said, the sizes on these can vary in terms of thickness. And supposedly they vary anywhere from 5 millimeter to 7.5 millimeter. This here is actually perhaps a shade under 3/16. I'm going to turn up the lights here just a little bit. Hopefully maybe we can see a little bit better. All right, I apologize. So, and I can compare it to the BK9. I really don't measure things much. And so there's the BK9 in terms of thickness, okay? And I know the BK9 is 3/16. So this is actually maybe just a shade under. So it could possibly be slightly out of spec. But this is a brute knife. Having 7.5 inches, over a quarter inch of L6 steel. Man, talk about a brute of a knife. This here already is. Gustavus Ferdinand Von Tempsky, I believe is his full name. He was involved in the New Zealand Wars. He's a really, really cool guy to check out. I believe a painter, artist, adventurer. And he was fighting guerrilla warfare in the New Zealand bush, and he had 30 of these commissioned in, I believe, Auckland by some blacksmiths, and they're made out of wagon spring steel. So this is back in a time when, you know, these men here, in this particular instance, they did not have bayonets. And many of their pistols were not serviceable. And their long rifles may not have been as well. I know Von Tempsky had a 44 caliber 5-shot revolver, and he had been seen in pictures with that. So in an instance where you're fighting a primitive culture, the Maori, I believe that is what it was, and I really hope I'm not butchering any of these pronunciations. Hand-to-hand combat, close quarter combat, and with unreliable firearms, you had to get out something fast, and it better be something good. And so these, and they had used these in their daily life out in the bush. So it went beyond fighting, but as we can see, its design is completely fighting. Von Tempsky had come to America, and it was in California in 1850, supposedly where he had learned his Bowie fighting skills. And supposedly, I've seen a quote where it says he was a terror with a Bowie knife. So 1850, this guy's doing that. He went. He had done some things in South America as well, and he had earned a reputation for himself there. Once again, like I said, check out more of this stuff for the details. So we're talking on this knife here, roughly like an 11-inch blade, 5.5-inch handle, and we have these nice fisheye bolts, and this is a heavy-duty guard. And it's sort of nice in that sense because doing your close work like you would with a smaller knife, you don't have any like pressure point from a narrow guard. So choking up and doing this chest lever grip, just like you would do with a smaller knife. And I'll show you here. I've got this little knife here. You would point the knife at these knuckles, and you would cut in this manner, and you would use your back muscles to gain power, and it's very precise. I like working a large blade in that manner, doing notches and doing different things or pointing things. In many instances, it makes the knife more manageable, and it feels safer, especially on uneven ground, uneven terrain, things like that, or heavy brush. This is a great way to shape stuff with a large knife. And this guard actually doesn't really get in the way much in those terms. We can see this Hammond line here, temper line. It's another name for that. So this knife is made extremely durable. I have seen variations on the handle material. I had seen it listed as New Zealand hardwood. I'm not sure what that is, but this wood here is Wenge. It's pronounced, or it's spelled Wenge. And this wood is supposedly an excellent substitute for hickory. So we're talking a very, very good wood, termite resistant, and I believe ranks pretty good on that Jenka hardness scale. Just a wonderful knife. So we'll compare it to a couple things that maybe some of you are a little bit more familiar with. And this is the Ontario SP51. And you can see, I mean, this Von Tempsky is a monster. Now the Ontario is a 1/4 inch, so it's going to be thicker. And look at this here. This is the Down Under Outback, also sporting an 11-inch blade, but as you can see, a much shorter handle. And it too is a 1/4 inch. So while in many instances a large knife might not be my first choice on what to carry, in many instances, if used properly and, with some, at least some intelligence, the right knife can actually be a pretty good tool. Knives and axes are completely different tools. You can't compare vice grips to a screwdriver. It just, they're different tools. Shovels to a rake, and it's the same. Knives and axes, mauls and saws. And then there's variations all, within that. But wielded with some competence, most of these big knives, they can do some work for you out there. They can do some real work. I know a lot of people are in favor of them in conjunction with a large takedown saw, and that's an excellent idea too. I've done some winter camping with my Bravo 1.5 and a Sven saw, and had no trouble getting a nice firewood. Compare it to that BK9 one more time. I know there's a lot of people with the BK9 out there. So this knife here too is also like the Ontario SP10 in a sense, in terms of style, if you will. They were both sort of born out of the same necessity, the Marine Raider and the Von Tempsky Bowie. But the Marine Raider being coated in a rubber handle, this is about the same blade shape and everything, but made different. There's no coating. The handle's wood. You get a leather sheath. So if some of you are really into that type of blade shape for your Bowie, there are some differences, yes, but in general. Now, I have an Ontario SP10, and it is far more comfortable in usage than this knife. And being 1095, it will readily throw a spark with a piece of flint. L6, not so much. This is made by, I believe it's Brian Baker, but he has it on here, B.W. Baker. Sword out of New Zealand. They've got a lot of other knives too, and I do not have any experience with them at all. So out of all my large knives, and I have many others that I haven't reviewed, this is probably the thickest of all the grinds. But it doesn't work too bad. It really is, I know I had mentioned, it sort of is like a hatchet in a sense of just, it's brute, and it will get the job done, and it'll make all your you know, tent pegs and shelter poles and things like that, and split all your kindling. A hatchet, at least every one I have, is far more easier to use. But as I had said, if you're really into things and you're smart with your tools and you do you do the right thing, you'll get used to this knife. And I mean, many men did. Many men did. There are, I'm sure, many woodsmen out there, untold numbers, that have never been written about, and their stories have never been talked about, who have passed away and long ago, who wielded Bowie knives in the mountains and in the swamps, in the heavy northern forests, using these. And they may have had an axe as well, but the whole thing about it is large knives and things like these are used throughout history. And for good reason. For good reason. And having a kit mentality like I do with certain things, a large knife and a good takedown saw is excellent. Excellent idea. Once again, thank you very much for watching.